Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. On my channel here, I have a whole lot of videos, and I guess something that motivates me is being able to use the items that we choose to invest in for our crafting over and over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, I super love buying new items and finding new things that I need. However, I have a very small craft space, so things that come in here need to be able to have a whole lot of ways that I can use them. So I have to think really carefully about the things that I purchase, and what I do purchase, I want to use in lots of different ways. Now, I was inspired by this card that I created a couple of cards ago, and I die cut out some circles from colored cardstock and just kind of layered them up and pop them together to create this. But this video today is all about finding alternatives. Now, I don't have any stamps that kind of work like this, but what I do have is the dies here, and these are going to be the perfect circles. These are the same that I used to cut out the cardstock for the original card, but I want to do an alternative. If you don't have the colored cardstock, you don't want to make the colored cardstock, or you just want to find a different way, then today is a great alternatives video. I have some kids fun foam here. This is either 2mm or 3mm thick. It doesn't matter. We are going to create our own stamps, and even though I only want 3 sizes of circles, I did get out one that was a bit bigger, the one size bigger, and I'm going to show you why. It's a bit of a cheat if I'm honest. So I'm kind of cutting out the smallest, the medium one, and then an extra large one. I don't need to cut out that kind of third size one that's sitting there to the right. Make sure that when you run this through your die cutting machine, you just run it through once, because the foam will flatten a little bit as it goes through, and you will kind of get a recut, and it will not be in exactly the same place if you run it back and forward through your die cutting machine. So the foam will cut perfectly with just one pass. Now, using that third size circle, I die cut out a whole lot of plain white circles, and this is how I attach mine to my acrylic blocks. You can, if you want to make it permanent, then you could attach it to some really thick chipboard or cardboard or anything like that. Honestly, for these, you are able to reuse the foam stamps as many times as you like. They clean up very, very well, so you could definitely make these permanent. That would work absolutely fine. I'm just showing you the way that I can do it today, and I just put down a little bit of double-sided tape on my acrylic block and then stick the circle to it. This also helps if you have nails, and I have cut some of mine off, so it's tricky. So I have adhered down the small, the medium, and the kind of extra large circle. I am using VersaFine Clair inks today. This purple is the Monarch color, and I like these pigment inks. These are beautiful for stamping, and as I'm doing stamping today, I am going to be using these ones. Now, here's the thing. This is what's going to make my life easier. I chose this extra large circle because then I don't have to line it up with the smaller circle underneath. This is the reason that I chose one that was slightly bigger. And all I do is stamp it off once, stamp it off twice, and then stamp it over my cardstock circle. And I'm just going to repeat this process. So all we are doing here to create exactly the same look, except for on one simple circle, we are going to be using kind of generational stamping. So stamping off a different amount of times. Here is the medium size circle. For this one, I'm going to ink it up, stamp off once, and then stamp down the bottom of our circle that we're creating. So ink it up, stamp it off once, and then stamp it to the lower part of our circle, and that way we have that kind of double layer there. I got a little mark on that middle one there from the corner of my acrylic block, so I do need to be a little bit careful. But here I'm coming in with the smallest circle, and this one is going to be full strength purple, so this is going to be the darkest. And then we have these circles here that look like I have just layered up that cardstock. I only used one single ink color, so I didn't have to do multiple inks and find all these matching inks, and it works perfect. So I am just going to keep going through with this process. Now, I kept the same circles on for all of the colors that I'm going to use today, And on purpose, I use the purple first because sometimes if you use darker colors and things, it can transfer over if you're going to do a lighter color next. But I want to show you that I stamp off some of the excess ink. This is how I clean them. And I take a damp baby wipe or a damp cloth and then just kind of give them a nice little going over until I see that the cloth is clean. I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 little wipes of it, and then you are going to get perfectly clean results. So these are the same stamps, and I am moving on to orange. So I ink it up on my ink pad, stamp once, stamp twice, then stamp the little circles that I have, and I'm roughly trying to do 5 or so of each color at this point. Then I get the medium one and I ink it up, stamp off only once instead of twice, just once, and then ink it on. And then with the very smallest stamp there, this is going to be the full strength one as always. The really awesome thing about this is that it doesn't matter how light or dark your color is to begin with, you are going to be able to stamp off and get the really nice 3 kind of different looking colors of ink. So this is such a fun technique. I kind of went to town on this. You can use whatever colors you have. You could definitely use other inks as well, other dye inks or pigment inks or hybrid inks. Just use whatever you have in your stash, but I chose to use the VersaFine clear inks because these are very, very good at stamping solid color, and that is what I needed today. Something like the Distress Oxide inks, I find that they stamp okay, but they're not really good stamping inks, if I'm honest. That's not what I've chosen to have them in my stash for, and that's why I have my little pigment inks. So I turned all of these over. We are going to turn these into a couple of different cards than we did last time. However, I will link the video that I did last time and show you kind of the designs that I had that time, but I just thought for something a little bit different, we would just change it up. This is the Botanical Borders with Sentiments, any stamp sets. I mean, there are so many different things that you can do with these kind of patterns, these dots. You could make them into squares, you could make them into rectangles, you could use triangles. I mean, any kind of stock standard shapes that you have are going to be able to work for this. And it means that any dies you have, you are able to turn into your own stamps. I have quite a few videos on my channel showing this and using this technique. It is a brilliant technique so that we can just stretch our supplies that little bit more. Now, first of all, I've stamped out that little congratulations on my card base. So this is straight onto my card base. I did pop each one of my circles up on a little foam dot, and that will give them just that little bit of extra dimension, even though they already look quite dimensional with the stamping that we have done. I'm using my T-ruler to line these up just to get them as straight as kind of possible. And I've got the orange ones underneath. I will pop the yellow ones down beneath that. And then I'm just eyeballing these ones. Hopefully the orange ones are straight because that's what I was following. And then the purple ones are going to go up above that word there. As I said, there are so many different designs for this. You can really go to town. On our Facebook page, after I posted my first version of this, where I just used the coloured cardstocks and lots of die cutting, there were lots of people who created their own versions. So if you want to see some other designs, over on our Facebook page, we have an amazing group of people over there, a very amazing community. So I will leave a link to that Facebook page. Otherwise, it is called Come Crafting with Natasha if you would like to search it and find us that way. I will also leave links to everything that I use in my videos as usual down in the description box below this video. I appreciate it so much when you guys are able to use my links. It does give me, well, some of them are affiliate links, and that gives me a small tiny portion when you use them and you click on them and purchase things. However, pretty much this video is about finding alternatives, and hopefully those alternatives are already in your stash. So this means I just didn't have to buy anything extra. I was able to recreate pretty much the same look as using the actual cardstock, but yeah, just using a different technique, which is always fun. I am using a green and a blue here. This is Verdant and Warm Breeze. The Warm Breeze I got in recently, and I absolutely love this color. This is the gorgeous, it's kind of a turquoisey blue, or I love this blue anyway, absolutely gorgeous. And then for this one, I'm just using this big old happy birthday. I have used this lots and lots. This is kind of one of my go-to big bold happy birthdays. I quite like this design because I feel like this one could be one for the boys. But really, I feel like designs and cards like this could be for any occasion at all, which is even better in our card making. I did decide to add a couple of little enamel dots. You could definitely leave these off. You could use a little bit more clear or iridescent ones if you wanted to. I chose to use some blue ones that kind of match that blue. Just a couple, and then I changed my mind about where I wanted this one to go. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this finding alternatives video. I love the idea that we can recreate something and just using some different tools or things that we already have in our stash. So I hope that you have enjoyed this one too, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks so much. See ya. Bye.